Welcome back to the Roundtable, where we're talking algae today. Sean Hegarty in for Jeff Smith. This afternoon, I have Dr. Robert Vincent with us as well. Doctor, we're hoping to maybe one day not have levels like this. You're saying when you look at this map here about how dangerous those levels in red are?
Yes. First, I misspoke a moment ago. This is everything that is not dark blue on this image is greater than the World Health Organization limit for getting people off the water. All right. So everything that is not dark blue on here is greater than 20 micrograms per liter, which is about the same as 20 parts per billion.
And this was taken?
This was, again, still the September 25th of 2008.
2008. Okay, so let's go to the future now. And one of the ways our meteorologists have been working on keeping everybody informed about this is they've been working experimentally with different organizations on a forecast of algae, which is difficult, I would imagine, trying to predict this.
Yes.
So moving forward, do you think there's anything that can be done to forecast, predict how bad these things are going to be, these blooms?
Well, I think before we spend a lot of money on forecasting, we ought to spend a lot of money on, or spend some money on monitoring. In other words, let's look and see what actually is there. One of the ways to forecast, if the satellite comes over every 8 days, if you see it for 2 8-day periods in a row growing, you're going to suspect that the third one's going to be pretty bad also.
Right. And I guess at this point, if maybe algae is not in people's purviews, you have to do with what you have. But your belief is that satellite and monitoring in that way is the best way to do it, right?
I do, because first place, we have got quantitative algorithms, and we know what the accuracy level of these are. And like, for instance, I couldn't use that same algorithm in a water plant because that's down at 1 part per billion that you're trying to measure. Right. This is looking at the region that is in and around 20 parts per billion.
Right.
Okay. And just like the toxicologist on the test, we have to have different algorithms for different ranges of the material we're looking at.
Do you think that these algorithms are a realistic solution to avoiding the problem of it getting in our drinking water, as opposed to maybe spending $500 million, $1 billion in a new plant? Do you believe the issue is really out in the water and getting to that first, as opposed to spending money on a new plant?
I do. And the reason I say that is that you could watch the buildup of the microcystin in the water with that algorithm and watch it grow, and you'll know when to buy more activated charcoal and start putting it into I think this is powdered that they put in there, powdered activated charcoal. And you'd be able to plan much, much better so that you wouldn't be without what you need.
How many days out could you plan? A week, 2 weeks, a month?
Well, particularly if we combined what NOAA is doing with these forecasts right now with what we know on the last satellite overpass of Landsat.
Okay.
Then I think that would be the best of all possible worlds, because then we could probably use the predictor to say 2 days from now, 3 days from now, we're going to have a real big problem. And then you don't have to wait 8 days for the next one to confirm.
To hopefully avoid some of
Yes,
that green,
right.
nasty water.
That's right.
So is there a way, in your opinion, to eliminate the bloom, as best you can, before it even gets to the treatment plant?
That's what I'd like to do, but you cannot put copper sulfate or another algicide like that out on this vast western basin of Lake Erie without it, A, costing a lot of money, and worse, B, beginning to contaminate your reservoir with too much copper, for instance.
Okay. Could you isolate it? If you saw the football field size?
Yes. Now,
algae.
now you've got it. If we can isolate it when it is small and put algaecide, first we got to prove that really has good consequences later. So there'd be some I'd put it on, some early ones that I don't put it on. So we saw what the relative fate of those were later. But if we find that encouraging, then you start putting it, you start looking June 1. Okay. And as you get smaller algal blooms, you go out there with the algicide and put it down. Now, a few football fields in area of an algaecide is not going to hurt the water very much in something the size of the western basin of Lake Erie.
It sounds as though treating it on August 1st is going to be too late.
I think it might be. I think we need to treat it like June 1st.
June 1st,
yeah.
Okay. Will this incident in Toledo, 2014, will it raise the awareness that something needs to be done, or is this just a blip on the radar?
I really hope this is not just another blip on the radar, because, and I don't think it will be. I think the public will finally say, we can't have what we had here before. We have to have a plan for getting that whole western basin to have less algae. And if you do that, your water problems are going to be solved along with it, as far as drinking water.
Drinking water.
Yeah.
Do you think, though, that, are other communities going to be affected by this at some point? We're going to see the Clevelands and the Buffaloes.
Oh, absolutely. I think
was,
Cleveland will, and so will Ashtabula, and Oregon, whoever uses the lake water. We should monitor the whole of Lake Erie along the whole coast of Ohio.
Okay, do we have the money to do that?
It doesn't cost very much. I don't know. I don't know if, I don't want to speak for Blue Water Satellite, which I helped start, but I think I remember Milt Baker telling me that he once offered some deal with the to Ohio EPA to monitor all the lakes in Ohio for something like $1 million a year or something like that, which would be, I don't want to hold him to that number, but you're not talking $10 million, you're not talking $100,000, and he was, I think, talking about all the lakes in Ohio.
And the monitoring, it sounds like, is going to be key forward, because I haven't asked the president and I haven't asked Congress, but I have a feeling that they're not going to write us a $500 million check to fix to modernize the water plant tomorrow.
Not the water plant, but they've written checks that size on restoration of Lake Erie. And one of the parts that's missing in that, too, is monitoring. If you make a new wetland, you want to look at before, during, and after shots from the satellite to show that that's having a positive effect. I believe in accountability. I think we want things to work, and if they don't work, we'll try something different and see if it works.
But the people want clean drinking water.
Yes.
For the most part, people don't care how it's done. They just want clean drinking water. They wanted to wake up that Saturday morning and make pancakes and fill baby bottles and that. So it maybe is lost on the public, but now it's going to need to be in the forefront. Do you think the will be there to increase the monitoring?
I think so. It's hard to predict how that's going to work as far as the state and the federal governments go, because those are big organizations.
Yep.
But I really think we've reached the point where it's becoming obvious to everybody that we have to have quantitative measures of the lake as far as the status of how much microcystin is in there, and there are other toxins too that we might talk about in the future, but this is the big dog right now, and it's a hepatotoxin. It would give you more liver cancers than some others. It attacks the liver. So it would be, I would love to do, in fact, I proposed this to NIH to do a study of the liver cancer rates in 3 cities on the northern coast of Ohio versus 3 cities like Columbus to get all their water from underground.
Interesting.
And it would show us whether or not we've got a correlation that might be due to this. Of course, liver cancers can happen from drinking too much, but I don't believe they can make the argument that there's less drinking up here than in Columbus.
There might be some universities that might dispute that. Yeah. It sounds like the bottom line as we wrap up here is that, in your opinion, satellite data is going to be the way to go to get a better handle on things, and then a better handle on treatment.
Yeah, right.
So maybe more stuff like this.
Yes, I believe more like this, and this could be improved also. We keep, if you have the research behind it, you can keep improving these, and you can look for other things that we're not thinking of now because we don't even know about it.
And that's a scary thought, though,
Yes.
because the hope is that everybody has an idea of what's out there and what's affecting it. When the water was when they stopped giving us the water, everybody said, "Oh, the algae is the issue."
Yes.
Hopefully, there's not more out there. But do you think more satellite monitoring would let us know if there is?
I think it would. And it would also let us know if there is a big change in the type of algae. This can happen. For instance, the algae that are in Sandusky Bay are primarily Planktothrix instead of Microcystis. However, Planktothrix also produces microcystin, but I don't know the relative rates at which they produce that toxin. Lake St. Mary's was dominated by Planktothrix.
And then when they had their issues
Yes.
there. Yeah.
And so we need to keep on top of that. And in the wintertime, it looks like there are other types of algae that dominate during the winter under the ice. So
To be continued.
to
it
be
sounds like.
continued, right?
Dr. Robert Vincent, thank you very much. I think you've really enlightened us into what's happening there and kind of where we're going. And it sounds like it's something we will be talking about here in the future. So we
Hope
thank
so.
you for your time today.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll let you know what you need to know about the water crisis situation going forward and how we can get you connected to resources so that you keep up to date on what's happening. That's coming up.